Welcome to the Protagonist Pub. My name is Tammy. And this is where characters gather. We are going to talk about what I read this week and what I'm planning to read this week. I had one official DNF last week and one I didn't finish. It was due back to the library, but I wasn't overly upset about it. Read. So we'll do those first. First, the DNF finish was, I have to look at the title, My Hope Next Door by Tammy L. Gray. I know several Christian booktubers really love this book. Amanda over at Amanda, Book Lover Amanda, immediately springs to mind. However, for me, the faith setting I couldn't relate to. It is far outside my experience. It is far outside my comfort zone. And it wasn't anything I could relate to unless I just wasn't interested. So I DNF'd it, and that's fine. I'm not upset. I know it's a beloved book by many people. It just wasn't something to which my brain related, and that's okay. And then the book that was due back to the library was All the Lost Souls by Amanda Dykes. Got about a quarter to a third of the way through. It was an interesting story, but it was so slow moving and it did not fit the mood I was in to read this week. It just did not. My brain was clearly not in the mood for slow moving, methodical, paced stories, and that's what this was. So I returned to the library. Somebody else had a hold on it. I can always check it out again when I'm in that mood. I'm not overly concerned. I will most likely come back to it. So what did I read this week? I read a lot of, for lack of a better description, bouncing. I would read some and then I would move on to something else, and then I would read some and move on to something else. So I really only finished one book this week, and that was the first book in the Dragon Riders of Pern compendium, which was Dragonflight. So I'm going to talk a couple things about this book. First of all, this book is recommended, and my husband remembered it as a middle grade read. I cannot fathom categorizing Dragonflight by Anne McCaffrey or any of these books as a middle grade read. There are far too many adult themes in this book. There is sex in this book. Admittedly, it occurs off the page, but it is very clear that that's what's happening. It's also very clear that the first time it happened, I don't want to say non-consensual, but it's on the borderline. This is an adult fantasy. I'm not even going to label it as teenage, young adult fantasy. This is an adult fantasy. The language, the situations, the storyline are adult. This is not a middle grade read. It is inappropriate for middle graders. That being said, I enjoyed this book immensely. And this compendium that I have is 3 books. The first 2 are in chronological order of publication date. And then the third book in this bind up is like book 9. Who does that? Who makes a compendium of a series and then skip so many books in the center. A little frustrated. I've read Dragonflight. I know that out of publication order, but in chronological order, there are many more books before I continue this, so I will be getting those first to get the backstory. I enjoyed the world. I enjoyed the setting. I enjoyed the writing style. I enjoyed the use of the English language very, very much. So what else did I read this week? I read 50 or odd pages in Greenwich, which is book 3 of the Dark is Rising sequence by Susan Cooper. And it's only 160 pages, so why I didn't finish it, I couldn't tell you. This is the first book where both sets of children from books 1 and books 2 are brought together. I found it very well done. I'm looking forward to finishing this incredibly brief book. I flitted through a couple of books on my Kindle, including The Route That Takes You Home, which I will link her name down below. I cannot remember the author's name off the top of my head. And it is a cozy mystery that is incredibly unique. It is the first mystery that I can think of, and it's a very long series, in which the protagonist is a mail carrier. Why hasn't that been done before? I'm enjoying it. Like I said, my mind was just scatterbug all over the place this week. So what else did I read this week? I picked this up from the library on Saturday when I returned the Amanda Dykes books. The Land of Stories, The Wishing Spell by Chris Colfer. Oop, there you go. That's a better picture of it. This is definitely middle grade. I am halfway through. I will probably finish this today or tomorrow. This is just pure fun. It deals with twins. Obviously there's two. They're twins who fall into, quite literally, they fall into and through their grandmother's storybook into the land of fairy tales. And they have to, the wishing spell is supposed to get them back home. This is so much fun and so utterly believable as being written by 12-year-olds, or they're 11 or 12. It's just hysterical. You can hear the snark. You can hear the sibling rivalry between them. You can hear the frustrations that exist between siblings, especially if you have a younger sibling or an older sibling who you always were squabbling with, but still love. That it's all very apparent. It is joyful. There are several books in this series. I will undoubtedly continue them sporadically throughout the year. They're just fun and they're easy and not to mention it's a library book. It's I think it was written in 2012 or published in 2012. Let's see. Yep, 2012. It's got good pages, but more importantly, it's got that library book smell. And it's got fun illustrations at the beginning of every chapter. Let me see if I can find one here. But this would be a great book to read out loud at night to your kids. Even if they were younger, they would still understand what's going on. This is not a complex read. This is not a scary read. This is a good parental go-to-bed read. So this week I shall finish up or start and finish The Subtle Knife by Philip Pullman. Those two I know I will finish. Hopefully I also finish The Route That Takes You Home this week. My husband, we have a tree coming down this week, so it'll be loud, which always impacts my ability to think and thus read. My husband is taking some time off at the end of this week and the beginning of next. I plan to enjoy his company, so I may or may not get a lot of reading done, and that's absolutely fine. I do know that I believe Tolkien Day is the 24th of this month, and if that is correct, even though my husband has it off, I will read The Adventures of Tom Bombadil. Or at least start it. I may not finish it. It's poetry, and I am looking forward to it. So that is what I read and what I shall read this week. What are you reading this week? Please comment down below, like and subscribe, and I will see you here next time at the Protagonist Pub.